Hey, this is Gary with Black Diamond Games. I wanted to talk today about hiring your first employee. And this has kind of come about because I'm about to go on vacation, and I'm gonna watch my policies and procedures and see if they work while I'm gone for the next month. And when I come back, I expect everything to be perfect because I've got a good manager, and that's what happens when you have a good manager. But to get to that first manager, I had to hire my first employee. Now this goes back like 14, 13 years really, because my first year, I worked 7 days a week. I worked about 65 hours a day. I had 2 days off that year, I believe. I had Christmas and Thanksgiving off for that first year, and my son was born 6 months into the store being open. We adopted him, and we had been working on it for several years, and it just so happened uh, he was born, and I had been open for 6 months, and everything changed after that, as it will. And I recall getting the phone call that we needed to go pick him up in LA, and my wife had to go. I couldn't go. I was working the counter, and there was nobody else. So I missed that opportunity. I missed the first week with my son because of the store. That was a choice I made. And going forward, I decided there was no way I could continue to work at this pace. I was going to have to hire somebody to help after that first year because I had no time. And you fall in love with your children, and you change your priorities. So the problem I wanted to talk about is you hire your first employee as a way to give you a break, and you're exhausted and you're tired, and the amount of training that usually the first employee get is minimal at best. Their job is to be there so you're not, and to keep the store from catching fire, and maybe sell some things, please, if you can. Now, I came from IT, and I was an IT manager, and I managed teams of people throughout that career. And I thought I was a pretty good manager, and that's because IT professionals don't really need management. They have the skill, they have the interpersonal skills to be an employee. They're older, and they are professionals. They have training and skills that they've acquired, and they show up on work on time generally, and they do their job and they go home. And your job is generally to like acquire resources from higher up. That's what an IT manager does. And maybe assign some tasks, but not a lot. Uh, so when I hired my first employee, I thought I was a good manager, but in fact, I was not. I was not a good manager. I had really very little management skills, it turns out, even though I took a week of classes in IT management and managed people for years. So I was exhausted, and I hired my first person. And like I said, the bar was low, and they sat in the chair on Sundays. Well, so I didn't have to. That was essentially what they did. And the danger here is it becomes how you hire people, how you expect people to behave. When you're not there, you're not managing them. They're just an employee sitting in a chair, and whatever your last instructions were, that's pretty much what they're going to do. It takes a very good employee, usually management material, to actually be proactive and fix problems and solve issues. So the problem tends to be that this process of hire and forget is something that continues beyond the first employee. And when I moved to my second location, the bigger location, I let that person run the store for a month with the assumption that they would be my new manager when we opened up. And it turned out that they kind of fell on their face because they had no direction and they had no initiative. So the store crashed while I was gone, and they ended up not working for me anymore after that. And the young guy who was helping me build the new store ended up becoming the manager, and he's now the head buyer at ACD Distribution. So it's worked out well for him. But that kind of that problem of not really knowing what to do with people, how to foster them, how to mentor them, that was something I had to learn after that first employee, and something I learned somewhat reluctantly because I didn't really want. Managing people is hard. It's really a hard job, but that's something you have to do. And I tend to I tend to delegate most management. So my managers are really the managers, and I tend to take the owner role because as the owner, I get to choose what I do and what I don't do. But still, it requires a manager to be on site with employees if you want any sort of performance out of them. I have yet to see anyone uh, hire somebody, leave them alone, and get good results. That's a pretty uncommon thing. So anyway, if you can break that mold of them being there so you don't have to actually changing them to be actively managed, to encourage them to perform, to mentor them so that they actually are getting skills and they are a better person, a better employee after you. That's the goal, and that's what I do with my managers now. And my managers, hopefully, they do it with the line employees. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. All right, thanks.